Hey, I'm Eddie from Gamersfire.com, and today I'm very excited to bring you my first impression of Fallout 4. I'm just going to start off bluntly here. Even though I've only put in a few hours so far, there is a lot of great shit in this game. So much that it was hard organizing my thoughts for this review, so let's go from the ground up and start with the technical aspects of the game. The visuals in this game are beautiful. Not that anyone is really surprised by that, but this is one of those games that's just truly nice to look at. All the characters look great and are truly capable of displaying whatever emotion is needed. The environments, even just the house interior at the beginning of the game, are great in both creation and design. The blend of futuristic and retro styles is just as strong in this game as all the other Fallout games. This creates a feeling of being in a 60s sci-fi comic that makes just looking around you fun. The draw distance is also pretty impressive. These types of games always involve a lot of walking, but this helps you to feel like you're always heading somewhere instead of just wandering through nothing with the promise that you'll get to a marked objective eventually. When you get into the ruined towns and cities, there are way more open buildings to explore than in previous games. This again makes all the traveling not so tedious. And each ruined house you explore actually feels like a real space that someone could have lived in, not just a prefab box with random loot in it. The animation really stood out to me as it creates a very believable experience. The facial animations portray the characters driving them in a great way that grabs you into the conversation. All the enemy animations are aggressive, intense, and sometimes downright terrifying. Overall, the visuals create one of the most believable and immersive game environments I've ever seen. The sound design also lends to the amazing immersive factor of this game. All the voice acting is top-notch. The characters are very believable and can truly get you invested in all the side quests you take on. Even Codsworth manages to portray great emotion despite no facial animations.
Oh, sir, it's been just horrible. 2 centuries with no one to talk to, no one to serve.
The guns sound dangerous and powerful, and the sounds of bullets whizzing by and chipping away at the walls around you will get your heart rate up during the shootouts. Plus, all the different mutated creatures make some pretty terrifying noises. I've had a few times where sudden scurrying footsteps behind me had me jumping in my chair and whipping around in-game with my gun ready. The last technical aspect to cover is the actual performance. Sure, it looks and sounds great, but does it actually run? And the overall answer is yes, it definitely does. It seems that the game automatically turns on some VSync related function as my game caps off at 60 FPS. But that's fine because it stays there reliably. The only area with issues is what the game calls Diamond City. There have been lots of reports of frame rates dropping around here, sometimes even into the 20s. I haven't actually gone to Diamond City yet in my game, but I did go into the general area at one point and saw it drop into the 40s just from that. Hopefully this will be fixed in a future patch, as this area is a major point of interest in the game. Now let's talk about the actual gameplay. There are a lot of different aspects to cover here because this game is absolutely packed full. The opening of the game was very well crafted. It introduced you to the mechanics and story of the game, but without taking up too much of your time. It felt like just the right length. As soon as I really started to get antsy to get out into the wasteland, there I was. A big problem I have with these types of open world games is not knowing where to start. Fallout 4 did a great job steering me through my first couple of main quests and then transitioning me over to some side quests. Then, in traveling to complete these side quests, I found more opportunities and this has gradually built up. This allowed me to quickly get going tackling objectives how I want, without being overwhelmed by a ridiculous number of side quests right from the start. The combat really feels great and intense. There's a certain hectic feeling to the mechanics that many other games lack. One main reason I noticed is that putting my sights right on an enemy does not seem to guarantee a hit. Other factors such as the accuracy rating of my gun and my character's skill level come into play. It's details like this that make the difference of a haphazard shootout that gets your heart racing as you try to take down the enemies first, and a standard shooter where you just blast through as a badass. While this is still fun, I personally really appreciate this more realistic, almost panicked feel. The VATS system is back and works basically exactly how you remember from previous games, and that's a good thing. It's a good system to add a little variety to the shootouts and sometimes get you out of a tough situation. Plus, it allows you to rely more on the skill points you've invested, which is good to have in this type of game. The crafting system for your settlement works pretty well after you figure it out. I had to look up some instructions as the game does not give you much to go on. There is not a lot of tutorial text here when you first enter this mode, but once you get it all sorted out, it is pretty intuitive. Scrapping items around you gives you resources that you can use to build new items. You use these items to earn points toward different resources, such as food and water. I haven't worked with it too much yet, but what I have done has been fun, so I'm hoping I find ways to really get creative with it as the game goes on. The most important part of this game overall, and this comes from everything I've mentioned working together, is how immersive it is. This has got to be the most atmospheric game I've ever played, and this really drew me in right from the beginning. Now I'll admit, I'm the kind of gamer who just goes through the game to get to the end and have some fun on the way. I hardly go for collectibles, and I tend to not care much about optional backstory items. As soon as this game got going though, I was reading every journal log in every terminal I could to figure out what was going on. I was genuinely curious to find out what had happened in this vault. Just like any great story, this game really draws me into all the characters and events, making me want to explore and study the environment around me for clues. So what's my first impression? No game has ever hooked me as quickly as this one did. From the very beginning, I was absolutely immersed in this world, and I just can't help but want to uncover everything it has to offer. Not to mention the sheer scale of the game. And I don't mean map size, I mean how much intriguing content they packed in. Overall, if you feel the need to have a new game that you can really dive into and get immersed in its world, this is exactly what you're looking for.
Get in the house! Get in the house!
I just watched you try to get... You're like a fly that can't figure out how to go out the window. I'm gonna die. Ow. I didn't die. I died. I died because I was laughing too hard. I killed the person who killed you, and then you did like a front flip and landed on him.